what you paid worth it?
Call the Board of Equalization order. We'll do a moment of silent reflection and pledge of allegiance led by Commissioner Hadcock.
I'm gonna agree. Say a prayer, I live after this. I didn't say that. Okay. Don't put that on the tape.
We're not recording yet.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Hadcock. Okay, next item is to review and approve the agenda for the Board of Equalization.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to approve. Commissioner Hadcock and Commissioner LaCroix? Is that
Lassiter.
Lassiter. Got to turn this hearing aid up. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We will now commence with the equalization hearings. Shannon?
Okay, so we've only got two things today. Approve or deny applications for exemptions from property tax, and then some property that was omitted from the tax roll we want you to put on. We'll start with the exempt properties. The reason we do this first is because the law says that if you deny an application for an exemption from property tax, the property owner has at least 7 days to come back and make an argument. It's probably not going to happen this year. But if it did, we do it first so there's enough time for them. We learned once if we do it the last day, then they don't have time to come back. So we do the exempts the first day in case somebody wants to come back. Now what happens here is the law says that all property is taxable unless it's specifically exempted by state statute. Of course, all government-owned property is exempt because government property doesn't pay taxes to itself. But any other property is exempt by statutes. There's a statute for churches, a statute for charities, a statute for benevolent organizations, all of that. Those that think they might be exempt have to apply, fill out an application by November 1st to my office. And then I make a recommendation to the board. The board either approves or denies that. So that's the process we're doing here. We split these applications up into different spreadsheets just so you know what's going on. A lot of these properties have been exempt in the past. You know, churches, the Catholic Church downtown's been exempt for 100 years. So we identify those that are brand new on what we call new exempts. These are properties that have not been exempt in the past and have made application this year. And then we've got partial exempt. There's some properties that are 50% exempt, 50% taxable. Those have always, or for a long time, have been exempt in the past, but we just split out those that are partially exempt from those that are 100% exempt and have been exempt in the past. We give you those three spreadsheets primarily just to show you these are the new ones. The rest of them, the board has granted exemptions in the past, but the new ones are new this year. If you have a question about one of the properties that's been exempt in the past, we'll look it up. We can go over it. If you have a question about the new ones, well, we can do the same thing. I will tell you that the properties that we've got on the list for new exempt are organizations that are typically exempt from property tax, but they have acquired a property or they're now using it for their exempt purpose. So the organizations like Black Hills Works, the Elks Club, Monument Health, those are exempt entities they either acquired one of these properties or just started using it for an exempt purpose, so it's new this year. Not that Monument Health is new, but I think Monument Health, I think they just started using that property. In the past, it had been a bare lot or something, so. There's nothing really surprising in this year's. We will talk about the two properties that I've recommended that you deny. The new exempt and the existing exempt, there's nothing that's a surprise to me. There's two properties that have made application for an exemption that I recommend you deny, only because they didn't meet the requirements of the law. They didn't submit an application on time. Those two are Hope It Forward and Free Methodist Church. Talk about Hope It Forward. Hope It Forward is an organization that provides a home for women that have substance abuse problems. I believe that they could be, the property could be exempt, but they didn't apply on time. Deb, do you know quickly when they made application? Here, I got Hope It Forward right here. Yeah, so just in February. So what I told them is that I'm going to recommend that the board deny it, and we'll hold the application for next year. The properties existed in Rapid for quite a few years. I don't know why they haven't applied for exemption in the past. But they just did, but they're well past the deadline required by statute. So what I'm going to do is hold that application for next year. Because they were late, I'll recommend that you deny it. Same thing with Free Methodist Church. Free Methodist Church is a church west as you're going out on Nemo Road. The church has been there for quite a while. They just acquired a lot next to the church and are using it for parking. They made an application too late. Same thing just recently. I just figured out that they acquired the property and called the pastor and said, if you wanted exempt, you got to make an application. Told him that it was past the deadline, that I'll recommend that it be denied. Same thing, we'll hold that for next year. It's just a bare lot next to the church. But they're using it for a church purpose, and in the future it can be exempt. So what I'd suggest is deny the exemption on the two and approve the exemption on all of the others.
I don't see any reason, if you're going to deny, I don't see any reason why we can't take both of them together in one motion.
I agree.
I take a motion to deny these exemptions as recommended by Shannon.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
can I ask a couple of questions before we?
Oh, absolutely.
Shannon, just in a summary format, what do they have to do to qualify for exemption? What criteria do they have to meet?
The criteria that they have to meet is, well, let's back up to the statute. Okay, so let's take Free Methodist Church, because that's a church. It's the easiest. All of the statutes that grant exemption have two characteristics in common. Has to be owned by the exempt entity and used for the exempt purpose. Okay? That's why I say there's some of, like I think Monument Health's property, they weren't using it for the hospital purpose, so they've been paying taxes on it for a while. So it's got to be owned by the exempt entity and used for an exempt purpose, and then they have to make application. And the law requires an application by November 1st. That's all that's required.
Okay, and I see we got new exempt, and then we've got the ones that have been exempt for a number of years. Has that list, has anybody dropped off that list, or does that remain pretty much stable?
There could be some that drop off if a church or a charity or something sold a property and it becomes taxable, it would drop off that list. That happens all the time. The only reason we split the new from the old is just so you can see what's brand new this year. This is what's been voted exempt in the past. We can look at any of those that you want, but we like to show you what's brand new this year.
In the new ones, it says Black Hills Works. Now, didn't they come in last year and they were late and we kind of overlooked that?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. There are sometimes we've had like a community center or something like that. It's difficult to get a rural community center to fill out the application because the old lady that's the secretary for the community center died, and the new person has no idea that we got to fill out an application on November 1st. So sometimes we'll have a late application then, but a community center's been exempt for 100 years. The law says they have to have an application by a deadline. I know the board in the past has overlooked that. These two this year, this is the first time. This brand new, they're asking for an exemption for the first time.
The last question would be partial exempts. There's a whole list of them. They're all mineral survey loads. South Dakota Annual Conference of United Methodists.
Yeah, it's church camp. So the church camp, they use the property as a church camp for the summer months. What do they do? 3-4 weeks, and then they use the camp for non-exempt uses, and I don't know what, family retreat or something like that. So the property is actually partial exempt, depending on how much of the year they use it for summer camp.
Where's that located on 44?
It's that one I think is just west, out past the guard camp area.
No, it's out on 16. You take, I think it's the Silver Mountain Road.
Oh,
turn off,
okay,
and you go
okay.
back about 2.5 miles. We've rented that for family reunions out there.
Okay.
so.
Okay, I think that's all I had.
And the only reason we split out those partial ones is just so you can see what properties are partially exempt, partially taxable. Otherwise, they've been partially exempt for quite a few years.
But every year they have to come in and fill that application out.
Not all of them. Churches and cemeteries, once they are exempt, they don't have to fill out an application unless something changes. Every other entity has to fill out an application every year.
Seems like it'd be a little hard to keep track of, but you're doing it.
Well, okay, so that's why I give you the example of the community center, because we mail out reminders, make phone calls, hey, you've got to have an application. Well, this one church, they bought that parking lot. Well, the pastor doesn't know he's got to fill out an application for exemption. So I called him and asked him to do it. We have to do a little bit of babysitting on some of these because some people just don't know the law.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to deny the two that were late this year.
Okay, we got a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Question, Shannon. I know that you referred to it as the Freedom Methodist Church, but I don't see Methodist anyplace on this. So is it just the Freedom Church?
The ownership that we've got on our tax record says Free Methodist Church.
Free Methodist Church.
Yeah, when I called the pastor, he called it the Freedom Church, I think. I don't know the difference.
Okay. So on the application, which I presume he filled out, then
Yes,
it
Yeah.
says Freedom Church.
yeah. And that's what he referred to it as. On our tax record, it said Free Methodist. I don't know what the difference is in the name.
Okay.
What do you want me to put in the minutes? Freedom or Free Methodist? Freedom Church? Free Methodist? Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
And what I suspect is maybe when the church was purchased, it was purchased under that name, and then over time, maybe they've changed the name of the church, but there's never been a new deed.
Okay.
That happens a lot.
Okay. Commissioner LaCroix.
Shannon, I have a question on Hope It Forward. I've got the application here for the Freedom Church, but I don't see one for, okay.
And did you have, this is a new organization that I'm taking it in.
They've existed in Rapid for several years. I don't know how long, but this is the first time we've got an application, and just in February we got it.
I struggle with this one, Commission, because, the work that they do, and I know sometimes these get slipped through just like we did with last year with Black Hills Works. That's my only, that the church, I think they've been around long enough, and the organization, that they understand that, but that's the only one I struggle with is the Hope It Forward. I would think that now they have it situated, sometimes they have staff changes and so forth, but
Mr. Chair,
Just one second. Go ahead.
those are my thoughts. I would grant them the exception this year for myself.
Shannon, grant the exception.
Commissioner?
The law requires an application by November 1st. That's all I can tell you. I would suggest that, that the minutes of these are going to be published and this is recorded. It would be difficult to deny one and grant the other for exactly the same application deadline.
Okay. Commissioner Roskinek?
my question would be, and I think we've done this before, where it's not black, it's not white, where we could sit there and treat them both equally and do a 50% reduction.
It's the law.
That's right. I think the entities, if they make an application on time, I think they're going to be 100% exempt. There's no reason to make it 50% exempt.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to deny these two. Further discussion? Not. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I
We got a motion that carried 4-1.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call both of these entities and tell them that it was denied. And they have the right to come back in 7 days to make an argument. But I've already talked to both organizations and told them all that anyways. I don't expect that they will, because both of them understood. They got it, but they have the right to. I just don't. I doubt they will, but I'm going to call anyways.
Okay, sounds good.
And I do that every year with those that are denied. And I also tell them ahead of time what my recommendation is in case they want to show up for this.
So
Okay.
Shannon, moving on to the new exempts for 2021, we need to make a motion on these two?
On all of them.
Okay.
Actually, what you're doing now is you're going to approve or deny all exemptions. So every
Okay.
year, even the churches that don't have to apply every year, you still have to grant them exemption or not every year.
Okay. So can you explain to me what's the change on the Elks?
The Elks Lodge is actually the golf course east of town, and they have multiple parcels in that golf course. And a few years ago, we had the Elks and all the other benevolent organizations as partially exempt. The VFW, the Legion, the veterans organizations, that we had them as partially exempt because all of them, I think except for the Masonic Lodge, were using the property for a non-exempt use. But we had an appeal go to the Supreme Court with the Legion, and the Supreme Court said that as long as they are using the proceeds, in the Legion's case, it was a bar and restaurant, for their charitable benefit, that the entire property can be exempt. So the next year then, all of these properties went 100% exempt. I missed a couple on the Elks property. They had a couple of pieces, and I forget exactly what they were, but they remained at a partial exemption, and they just need to go full exempt.
Okay.
So they didn't acquire anything. No, it's the same
Okay.
property. It's always been there. We just need to take off that partial and make it full.
Okay. And I take it Abbott House is probably a new home that was built for at Johnson Ranch?
I don't know about that one. Do you have a note on that? Okay, so they note property was acquired January of 20. So I'm not going to say it's a new house, but at least it's new to the Abbott house.
Property for them.
Yep.
Okay.
And what they say is foster care, independent living, group care. And we would have had an appraiser go out and look at the property to make sure that it was being used for what they say it is. And then we make a recommendation to grant it.
Okay. Any other questions relative to the new exempts 2021? I take a motion to approve the new exempts for
So
2021.
move.
Second.
Got it.
All
I've
the
got a-
exempts, the 100% partials and new, all of them?
No,
We're
just
just
taking the
doing
new
new?
exempts.
Just new, okay.
So I have a motion from Commissioner LaCroy, second by Commissioner Lassiter. Is that correct?
Yep.
To approve the new exempts for 2021. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now let's go to the partial exempts.
Move the approve the partial exempts for 2021.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I got a motion from Commissioner Roskinek, second from Commissioner Hadcock. Any questions relative to the partial exempts? No further discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Now let's go to the 100% exempts, 2021. Any questions of
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate with, one of our former commissioners used to ask how many of these 100%, how many 100% is it number wise?
I have no idea. I can,
I think Ron Busker used to ask that.
yeah, I can find out. There might be a few of them that we don't have a value on, but we've been working over the last few years to put a value on even churches.
Yeah.
So we can answer that question. I'm not sure if we've got all of them, but you know, I can do something and get a number back to you by Friday.
No, I was just curious because, you know, he brought this up, but, you know, and I drive around town and I see how many churches there are, and it just kind of, I wonder how they make it with that many, but
Well,
that's just my thoughts.
It isn't church. What you're seeing on the first page is church, but then you flip through and there's charities.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, we printed a map of all of the exempt property,
Yeah.
just in the Rapid City
Yeah.
area. And we color coded it between government and all of these. And that map is somewhere down here. It's 3 or 4 years old. Hasn't changed a lot, but yeah, there's a lot of color on that map.
Be 52 total, 42 taxable, 5,000 exempt.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's where I put a note from before.
There's a lot of property that's exempt from taxes.
That book's old and it was probably a couple Busker asked that.
Yeah, that's why I wrote it on the front of this, but I bet you some of those taxables changed because of the new law.
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm not trying to hold anything up. I was just seeing how many we had. And I do remember you doing that map.
Yeah.
So is there a motion on the 100% exempts?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter to approve the 100% exempts for 2021. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So I missed a step in the exempt process. Well, when a property makes an application, we compile a list, and the auditor's office publishes a list of every property that requests an exemption from taxes. The theory is the public then can see every property that's requesting an exemption before this public meeting, and the public could show up here if somebody wanted to challenge something. So everybody that applies is published in the newspaper. And then at this meeting, it's an open public meeting that obviously nobody cares enough to attend. The public could come to this and make an argument. And then the minutes of your decision is published.
Okay. So Kara, do you know when that was published? Was that published like November, December?
Oh, gosh, I'd have to look.
No, just
It'd have
within
to
the
be
last
after-
month.
March.
Was it
something.
March? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then
I said 16, but yeah, probably 17.
That's fine. I was just curious as to how recent it actually
Yeah.
was.
Mr.
So that's everything that was applied for by November 1.
Yes, well,
Well, it's
yes,
not-
well, I don't know, like, because we had the one application in February. Did that get included on it? No, okay.
Yeah.
So by November 1st.
Okay.
By law, it had to be published like so many days before the first day of the hearings.
Okay,
So whatever.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Shannon, next year, when we do the ones like these, the denies, could you just include the assessment sheet so we could get an idea what we're talking about for assessed value?
Okay.
Even if we're gonna deny it, at least we could see what we're looking at
Okay,
relative to what their assessed value would have been.
okay. We'll do that. Okay, so the only other thing we've got to do today is omitted property. And we've got a list of them that I think there's nothing wrong with. Kara, one vote on all of them?
That's fine with me.
Okay,
Whatever
what
you guys-
this is we mailed out assessment notices. We're required to mail them by March 1st. We typically get them out a few days early. And that is the tax roll right there. And then we found these properties that we omitted. And we're asking the county board to put them on the tax roll. There's one house that, I forget why, but somehow we found a house that we didn't know about. The land we've got on the tax roll, but we went out, looked at the house, put a value on it, and we've got that. The rest of them are properties that were split. Let's say somebody had 10 acres and they replatted it into 2 5s. The 10-acre parcel, tax parcel, is gone. And now there's 2 brand-new 5-acre tax parcels, and we missed those. We didn't get those on the tax roll. We should have. That's a normal process, but these we missed. We got them done in time for county boards, and we're asking you to put them on. Otherwise, those properties have been on the tax roll for years. It's just that the parcel number has now changed. But you'll see some names in there that those people have been paying taxes on that property for years. It's just the identity's changed and we dropped it and we're adding it now.
So Shannon, are there any of these that were omitted that they're appealing it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they can come back and same thing with the exempt. They can come back, Deb says on the 19th to make an argument, but we don't expect anybody to. But
Okay.
we'll notify them of this, but I doubt it.
Okay.
The guy with the new house, possibly because this is the first assessment that he's had on it. But still, I don't think so. But we'll talk to all of those again, and they could come in, because they didn't get an assessment notice on this. So,
So the new house, do we know when that was completed? Was it completed before?
they didn't get a building permit. I can't tell you when they got it done, but I'm gonna say last summer sometime.
Okay.
So, and we found out I think the owner told us. We found out somehow, and rather than wait till next year, we went out and, because we had time to do it at this meeting, we got a picture, measuring tape, and we're gonna add it.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek?
just so that we all understand, so after the November 30th or let's say January, the following January, somebody has 10 acres, they split it in half. It goes through that a process, and then you get 2 new lots that go to the register of deeds, and because they each have to have a deed associated. Where does the ID number get put on those in the process, Shannon?
It's our office. So it doesn't have to go to the register of deeds, only if it's selling. But In our office, Ann does GIS mapping. She creates the new tax parcel on the map, and every plat that is proposed comes to her first, and she reviews it, a quick review, just to see if she sees anything that might be wrong. Otherwise, it goes through the planning office, and when it gets approved, she gives it just the next number in line. So it's a brand-new property, and this is the next number we're using.
Then it should integrate right to your office from there then?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And we dropped these last year, and we figured it out, so we're asking the board to add them.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lassiter.
mainly because I'm new and maybe I didn't quite understand. I want to make sure that I'm understanding. So these that are the ones that have omit written on them, some of them have a present value of 0 and then the corrected value is 91,000. That's because they added a home or something of that nature. Is that correct?
No, it's because this is the first time this tax parcel under that identity has ever existed.
Oh, so they weren't being taxed on it in the previous years.
Under a different parcel number, they were.
Okay. Because
Yep.
whenever I see some of these and it's like 0 present value and then 143,000 correct value, I'm like,
Yeah.
somebody would probably freak out with that.
Well, yeah, but, okay, so 143,000, that 143,000 was on the tax roll last year in a different parcel number.
So they were paying taxes on it just under a different parcel
Yes.
number. Okay.
Yep.
Maybe that's what I was trying to figure out. Okay.
Yep. Let's say parcel number 10 is 10 acres. And they replatted it, and now it's 2 5s. So now it's parcel A and B, 5 acres each. And this is the first year parcels A and B are going to be on the tax roll. But that property was on the tax roll last year as parcel 10.
Okay. That makes a lot.
Shannon, amongst the omits also is the Holly Telford and Heidi Bell information. Does that belong there?
Shouldn't have been. That we did have an appeal scheduled for Holly and Heidi today. They had a conflict with work, and we've rescheduled it for another day.
Okay.
So it was on the schedule, but they requested a different day. The omits is the only other thing we've got to do today.
Okay. Any further questions relative to the omits? If not, I would take a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner LaCroy, a second from Commissioner Lassiter to approve the omits. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The omitted property process is something that doesn't happen just at boards. There is a law that allows the county auditor to add property to the tax roll in the middle of the year. We frequently do that when the state transfers ownership of a property into private ownership, and partway through the year, it becomes taxable because it's owned by John Doe now instead of the state. So we get that, we give it to the auditor mails out a letter and says, we're gonna add your property to the tax roll this year for half the value because it was exempt for half of the year. We do that later on in the year, but these we found just after we mailed assessment notices. So we're asking the board to do it now. But I always in the middle of the year, we do a bunch of omits through the auditor's office. And it's usually because it was exempt.
And you still are gonna have the appeal on this, even though she says she's taking you to court?
Well, she's requested an appeal. Whether she says she's gonna sue me or not, she can appeal.
But we can still legally see this even though she wants to take you to court?
I don't know why we can't. Yeah.
You could ask Jay or anything after reading this, that's a good idea.
Well, okay, so if she's going to take us to court over the assessment, she first has to appeal through the county board. Because if she's going to continue the appeal onto court, it has to be a continuation from county board.
There you go.
So court will want us to hear it here.
Sorry, Joe.
Okay? Anything-
But like I said, that, she's requested another day.
Anything else today?
No, that's it. Now, I don't think you adjourn
No,
No.
and
recess.
recess.
No, and I want to ask, does anybody have any other questions of Shannon for clarification?
So we hold on to this one till, what day did we put this on?
Is that the Holly one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
19th.
So Gary,
Going
most of
in
the
there.
time on these, we don't have form where you just ask questions when you,
Right, yeah, that's it. And it,
yeah, that was, you guys don't have to do chair and stuff, you just ask questions.
Okay, now,
A lot easier than.
Deb, on Friday. Friday, we actually start the appeals. And we've got a full day. How many people, do you have an idea how many people are actually going to show?
how many, Deb?
30 scheduled, but, you know.
Anybody cancel? Did they tell you when they're not gonna show?
Some.
Anybody say they're not gonna show yet?
Yeah, we know not all of them are going to show. That's what I was asking, if she had an idea of how many.
Hold them up?
We try to,
I tried.
That's what I'm saying.
but sometimes we get somebody, I got 3 o'clock, I can't make it in the morning, and, yeah.
Instead of 15 minutes, it takes an hour.
Yeah, yeah, and that happens. I was just trying to get an idea of, when you look at a full schedule, we know it's not gonna be that, because there's some of those people that told us after Deb printed the schedule and got to you that they're not gonna show up. So we know some of them aren't coming, and then some of them are just simply not gonna show up, and we didn't know that, so.
So the ones we hear on Friday, are they gonna pretty much just be properties within Rapid City? Or,
All over.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, all over.
all over.
I just wondered, when you do the assessment appeals, it's normally Rapid City comes in first and then the county's notified.
Not so much. You'll see some of them from not just Rapid City, but all of the local boards. Most of those will be on one day, but if that person can't make it that day, we'll schedule them another day, so the schedule gets mixed.
Oh, that's what I meant, local boards, so,
Yeah.
well,
And when is most of our local boards?
I have Wall mainly on the 23rd, and then there's a few Rapid City, I think, maybe Friday, and then,
okay, just wondered what we had coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, but it's not all of them on one day.
So what I've got for appointment schedule on Friday, only lists 12. Is that, can that change? Is that,
you should have a morning and an afternoon,
oh,
2 packets.
oh,
And then I have a question.
I do.
Each of those, they just start at that time frame. So we're gonna be here at least all the way up until 2:40 for that block to start, because those only start in those blocks. Is that correct?
Right.
Well, now, if we're done at noon, we'll try and get a hold of some guy that's at 2:40 and say, hey, can you come in earlier? It doesn't always work.
I tried to fill the no-shows, the ones that the appraisers may just get up and ask for a recommendation. I tried to fill those spots up with other people I know are gonna show, but when you're appealing them back from towns and townships, you never know if they're gonna appear or not, so.
So we had a lot more appeals than this. So what
Yes.
happened to all the others?
Okay, so if a property owner appeals, everybody that appeals, we make contact with as long as we can. There's a few people that don't give us a phone number. There's people that don't answer the phone. But there's very few that we don't make contact with. We will talk to them, and most of them come into our office. And most of them, we go out and look at the property and meet with them, and we go over everything with them. And if we find something that's wrong, we'll make a recommendation to the board to change it. And we'll tell that property owner that. We think the value should be reduced to this amount, and we're going to recommend the board do it. We can't make that change, only the board can, but we're going to recommend that the board do it. And if the property owner is happy with that, we put it on a list, and they don't have to come in because they know we're going to recommend that you make that change. There's a risk that you don't go with our recommendation, but That's probably not going to happen. So they just choose not to show up. So we put them all on a list and you do all of those at once. If we think the assessment is valid, we tell the property owner that and say, you can come in and tell the board what you want, but this is what we're going to tell the board. And that's where you get the two-sided argument there in front of the board. If we think the value should be changed and they're not happy with that and still want to come in and make an argument, that happens too. But all of those that they're happy with our recommendation, they don't choose to come in. Why come in? Because that it's a waste of time unless they want to be here just in case. So there's
Your office initially had about 700 contacts of people that had questions or interested in appealing.
we probably had more contacts because there's a lot of people that come in and talk to us that choose not to appeal. Okay, then we've got all of those that have appealed, but very few of those are actually going to come in and make an argument.
Okay.
And then there's always some of them, they talk to us and we tell them the value is good. They're still not happy, but it ain't worth coming into a meeting. So we recommend no change and they're not going to be here. Everybody that wants to come in front of the board, we give them a time so they can. But we have a recommendation for you on all of them to either change or not change. And if they show up, we're going to tell the board exactly what we told this guy here earlier. There's nothing that's going to be a surprise. But if they're simply not going to come in, let's put them all on a list and make that one vote and be done with it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
so when our next meeting, we do have the flexibility to pick a number that they don't like and you don't like. We can always find a compromise. We've done that before.
Yeah, I would suggest that you're looking for market value and not a compromise.
No, I'm just saying that it depends what the evidence is.
Yeah, yep,
I just want Travis to understand that there's, we got that latitude.
yep.
And then also, how many of these are going to be tax reps on Zoom? Because last year we had a lot of tax reps and we're on Zoom.
Joan, how many we got calling in on Zoom?
Tax reps, I'm gonna say three-ish. There'll be individuals that are on Zoom because of COVID or distance, but tax reps, I'm gonna say three-ish is all
Okay, just,
that I'm aware of now. That doesn't say they won't call today.
I should tell you that on that list where we make a recommendation, there are some very large changes this year. Two big ones are Rushmore Mall and Rushmore Crossing. Both of those properties have sold or are in the process of selling. And, well, the Rushmore Mall, we got an appraisal on that. I don't think we got an appraisal on Rushmore Crossing, but I'm not positive on that. I don't remember the numbers, but we are somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 million, down 10 to 20 million dollars on each of those. No, we were too high. And we have two recent purchases and an appraisal that come in significantly lower. And we go, okay. Now what they're telling us is Rushmore Mall's got some maintenance issues with it. And there's some vacancies out there. There's some problems with rent agreements. Some of the stores in the mall, they would be paying a flat per square foot rent, but because there's so much of the mall that's vacant, they're down to a percentage of sales, which is not as good for the mall. The mall is suffering from some vacancy issues. In the mall itself, the theater, the restaurants around the outside, they're doing great. Rushmore Crossing's the same story. It sold just a few years ago for a whole lot more than it just sold a few days ago. They just closed here a few days ago. And 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, it sold for a whole lot more money, but their vacancy has jumped up considerable.
Rushmore Mall was local, it was the,
Rushmore Crossing.
Rushmore Crossing, was that local sale?
No, no,
I know the
I'm
mall was.
I'm trying to be careful about the mall because we were asked for some discretion. I don't know if they've closed on the sale, so I don't want to say who I've been talking to. But yeah, you're right. Rushmore Crossing, it's somebody we've never heard of. It's some investor from somewhere.
Right, and I won't say the local.
Yeah. But both of them, I know Rushmore Crossing closed. They actually gave us a certificate of real estate value, and the closing date was like the last day of March or something like that. And I'm not positive if the mall purchase has closed or not, but it's in all likelihood going to sell.
Just out of curiosity, when Bacon Park sold for 14 million, where were we at on the assessed value? Got any idea? Were we up or below?
I'm assuming it was low.
We were close.
I
Okay.
think they overpaid for it.
I wanna say we were very close. We could have been $1 million off, but I don't remember.
But now with that $20 million in renovation, probably.
Yeah, and then that's going to go up. Now, and that's part of the problem we face when we're looking at the Rushmore Mall is we've got Bacon Park sold for that much money, and that's sort of a crummy property. How can the mall be worth more, but not, we thought, enough more?
I'm not gonna argue with you on that. Foundations, electrical, everything was, when you get the walls tilting,
There were some problems out there.
1950, yeah.
But then when we talk to the guys with Rushmore Mall, they start saying the same thing. But the enclosed mall, Rushmore Mall, everybody in the industry says is an obsolete dinosaur. Nobody wants them. Nobody's going there. I don't know why, but it is suffering some vacancy problems. The company that has it now, I think they're doing good, but there's a lot of it vacant, and there's a lot of stores that are paying reduced rent because there's not enough other stores in there.
If you,
Quite frankly, I mean, Deb, me and you seen this years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when we were doing National League of Cities. We seen malls shutting down all over the place back then in some of the different areas.
Well, the Rushmore Mall is being sold by a bank, and it's actually the third time it's sold by a bank.
but if you look at those appraisal reports, they're not saying, the mall's worth $100 a square foot. They're saying, they're just sitting there strictly looking at an income stream and applying a cap rate. And that's where they're getting the number.
Not
It's
so
just
much-
all income.
It's the income approach, not the
Yep.
materials or the cost approach.
Something interesting I learned about the mall. I've heard this before, but I've learned this with this mall. You have a store that, first of all, you have your anchors. J.C. Penney out there is an anchor of that mall. They pay very little rent because they're the anchor that draws customers in for the other store. Bacon Park Thrift Center's the anchor there. Same situation. Okay, the Rushmore Mall lost Sears and Herberger's. Those were two important anchors.
Target.
And
Shields,
yeah.
Target.
Target Shields, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you've got another store, let's say Victoria's Secret. When they went in there, they had an agreement. We will pay this much per square foot. But if we lose an anchor or if we lose what we consider a complementary store, we're not going to pay that much rent. Our rent's going to drop down. And that's happened with the mall because they've lost too many important stores. The ones they got are on reduced rents because they're not attracting enough customers into the mall.
That's actually a good point.
Might even be safe to say that if that was an empty lot, the lot would be worth more empty than with the building.
Okay, so we got a problem with that. When we get our value down, at some point we got to say, the land is worth that.
Right.
And we're barely above that point now. And it's difficult to compare it to Bacon Park because, yeah, here's somebody went and paid that for Bacon Park, and we've got them all higher than that, but we think it should be a lot higher.
But there's more land around that mall than just right there too, so they own
Yeah.
all of that.
Actually, when I'm talking Rushmore Mall, I'm talking the mall, and then there's some bare land behind it, but there's also the theater and Olive Garden and what is it, Texas Roadhouse? That's all Rushmore Mall.
Oh, they all pay rent to the,
Back of it.
Yes, it's all Rushmore Mall property. Multiple tax parcels owned by Rushmore Mall.
Okay.
Now, Olive Garden's doing great. Texas Roadhouse is doing great. So when we allocate the value, we have a reasonable value on those properties. It's the enclosed mall itself that's the problem. So when you look at the list that we give you, where we ask you to make these changes, I wanted to point out ahead of time, multiple $1 million in reductions and assessments on those. We think it's valid. Otherwise, we'd be standing up here making an argument it's not.
Is that happening quite a bit with commercial? I mean, Ron's in,
Go ahead and borrow my
does a
heater.
lot of that. And with the strip malls, I'm seeing a lot of empty, vacant strip malls. I mean,
Okay, so a couple of years ago, we were looking at strip malls. It seemed like they were building them like crazy,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of vacancies. But we haven't got to the point where we would say that it's oversaturated. The malls took a hit. Rushmore Crossing and Rushmore Mall took a hit. I don't think we're at that point with the strip malls. A couple of years ago, we really wondered if we were. They kept building them, but it seems like they're filling them now.
I was just gonna, since we got you and Ross Connect here,
Well, they're
I was
building,
wondering what the trend, are you seeing some trends happening?
depends where you're at, like where we appraised that super duper, it went down. It's gonna be a strip mall up on Sturgis Road.
Yeah.
But I think the properties that, another segment of the market that really got hit hard would be the hotels. The franchise hotels especially, because there's 4,700 guest rooms in Rapid City, and so you got COVID, and then you got the over inventory.
Okay, so you were talking strip malls, and maybe we're getting too many of those. Yeah, we wonder about motels. They keep building more and more motels, and we're starting to hear the motels are telling us that the value of the property is probably there. The value of the property is there, but the income is getting reduced on that. They said the average daily room rate is coming down because there's so many motels now in Rapid. But it's still enough income that they're building them.
And we'll see, because our tourism is way up too because of COVID, in a sense where people are coming here.
Okay, so I want to address the COVID issue. I don't think the problem with Rushmore Mall and Rushmore Crossing has anything to do with COVID.
I meant the motels.
Okay, so when we talk about COVID, I don't think
Trying to get you on the mic.
To go on your mic. Sorry.
COVID had much of an impact on our real estate market here. Okay, values. Some businesses, it impacted them.
Yes.
But that's a 1 year or a few months on your income stream. And when we're talking about value of a property, at least on a commercial property, investors are looking at long term. So you lost a little bit money this summer, but that doesn't mean the property lost value. What we saw is some restaurants took some hits, some motels did. But then we had a lot of properties tell us that they more than made up for it at the end of the summer, because so many places were closed down in other states that they took more tourists here. Keystone said they had a bigger year than they normally would have, even though the first part of the year was near dead. Some of the motels in Rapid, not so much. The more touristy places, they more than made up for it.
Mr. Chair. Shannon, did the Rushmore Mall, did they actually fill out an appeal form?
Yes,
And so with that being said, a residential appeal form and commercial, it'll say, what do you think your property should be worth? And so there's two categories. What is the land worth and what's the building worth for the combined assessment? And
Yeah.
so I talked to Rod yesterday. I said, it'd be nice when they come in to do these appeal, like for the Rushmore Mall. Okay, what do you think your land's worth? They don't do that. It's just, this is what we think it's worth. But I'd really like them to get some skin in the game and say, this is what we think the land's worth, and the building's worth nothing, but at least let them identify those two numbers.
Yeah,
that
it'd
would-
be nice. The
You could
law
estimate.
requires that they just provide written notice.
Okay,
The appeal form that we use has that on it. Almost nobody ever fills that out, especially with commercial properties, because too many times they're willing to negotiate. It's like a used car deal. They don't want to put a number down for fear it's going to be too high. So they come in and say, what do you think? And we can't force them to fill it out because the law just requires written notice.
Okay.
And I tell them, if you write it on a sticky note, say, I want to appeal, that satisfies the law.
I thought maybe that was a statute that you had to put
No,
both.
no.
Okay.
They don't even have to fill out the appeal form. It's nice if they do. If they don't, we fill it out anyways because it's nice to have a form, but the law only requires written notice.
Any other questions of Shannon? If not, I'll declare us in recess until 8 a.m. on Friday, 16th.
All right, thank you.
Now,